I don't know if you noticed in this interaction, Zach, like while the two girls were like talking about who's gonna take him, he like literally puts his head down, literally flamingo style. He's like, as it like, oh, I'm just not gonna say anything and someone will figure it out, but it isn't gonna be me. And I'm like, Zach.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're in Bachelor Season 27, Episode 4, and we're back again this week and every week to recap Zach's season. If you're new here, welcome. We're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially The Bachelor. So if you're into this sort of stuff, hit that subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation.
All right, so this week we had 2 one-on-one dates and 1 big group date, and actually a rose ceremony. I feel like these episodes are now finally like a full cycle within each week. It's so nice. Anyways, the first one-on-one date went to Katherine, who was such a good match for Zach, in my opinion. Like, it seemed like they had a really good time. They had like a little yacht date. Nothing really dramatic happened on it. It was very straightforward. She was looking great. They were applying sunblock. And Zach was like so into her very kind of like chill, goofy vibe. I think that's exactly what he's into, like girls who are just really easygoing and light. And that is exactly what Kat was like on this date. So it seemed like they really vibed, really liked each other. And yeah, I think she's going to be a bit of a front runner just based on how much they were connecting on this date. The evening portion of their date was interesting. The table conversation that they were having, this is usually the part where the person is expected to share something difficult. Kat comes in and she kind of has this attitude as if she is about to share something like, oh my gosh, I hope that he is going to accept me for the kind of background that I had from where I came from. She made it seem like she was going to bring up something really, I don't know, just like complex. But what she said, and the only thing that we kind of got from the conversation, was that she and her mom have a pretty tense relationship, and there's a lot of conflict in their mother-daughter relationship, and she didn't always live at home.
I've always admired people that come from a place of stability and family. It's something I've always wanted and seeked in a partner. To hear that you have that, it's both scary but also like comforting.
Yeah, why? Why is it scary?
Because of the fear of like being judged.
Which you can totally get the sense that there is more there to unpack, like to understand why she feels like this was a shameful experience and why she thinks that it would make her partners question her. But we didn't really get a lot of that, or at least in the edit we didn't get a lot of it, and Zach didn't ask any questions. He was just like, no, but I do like you. And that's all. In my head I was like, maybe she was like temporarily like unhoused. She was maybe living like kind of living on the people's couches or something. Like, I was like wondering, is the texture of this, like what's the full story here? Or maybe like it's like a attachment wound where she thinks that because her mother didn't love her, kind of like with Gabby, because her mom didn't love her, maybe she's worried that she's not lovable. I don't know, but we didn't really get into it. Like, we didn't really get much else. Like, I just seemed like Zach did not want to go in. He was like, okay, I hear you, I love you, I don't care about that, and you're fun now, and that's what matters, so let's keep kissing. Like, that was kind of his vibe. So I was like, okay, like, I guess that's that then. So, right. You know, not to totally shade on Zach, and this is gonna come back around to like our thoughts on Zach overall, but I was a little bit like, I kind of wish I knew more about Kat than I really learned on that date, and it was kind of on Zach to like help us peel back the layers, and we kind of didn't, but whatever. They had a good time and they seemed to be really vibing, so I guess all is well.
In that moment of vulnerability, to really get to the heart of it, you have to be, the energy has to be like spacious enough to like allow for that to be opened up and for it to be unpacked. And it was a very a hard thing for her to disclose that her relationship with her mother has so deeply impacted her that she feels like she might be unworthy of love, or having that kind of like shame around it. That is really sad. It reminded me a lot of like Gabby Wendy, because a lot of what she said was that she felt like because her mother didn't love her, she felt like she was unloved as a person, because your relationship with your mother is really your first relationship in your entire life, yours and your and the father. So yeah, that was really difficult to see, and I do wish that there was like a little bit more tenderness extended in that moment, not just romantically, but just as a human, to say like, wow, I'm so sorry that you went through that, and I'm here if you want to talk about it. That isn't true. And you know, the way that you see that, it was really painful in the past, but you are loved for who you are, and you're more than just this past experience, and so many people in your life like really appreciate you. That's like a really beautiful moment to like connect human to human. But I kind of get why Zach didn't go into it, because it is very heavy and intense to get to. They are on TV. But,
yeah, that's
you know,
true.
She was on TV and she was sharing so much. So I just wish that she got a little bit back, I hope, from like a therapist or like a mental health professional on the show.
Kind of thinking that too. I was like, I hope someone's going to unpack this with her, because Zach clearly didn't. So
he's left
like,
it.
Okay. He was like, all right, that's fine with me. It's not going to bother me as long as, you know, we don't have to talk about it all the time. So I was like, all right, I guess that's fine. But, you know, she did mention at some point, like, I think later on they brought it up again, like at the cocktail party. And she was like, past partners have been less okay with it. So it sounds like there's also, I just keep getting the sense that there's more to the stories. So there's more to Kat's story, and like why she's self-conscious about this, or why she's like kind of so torn up internally about it. But again, Zach didn't ask any questions when she said that, so I was like, all right, like I guess we're just never gonna know, and it's okay. Maybe they'll talk about it off camera when, you know, it's not like gonna get aired out on national TV, so maybe they'll talk about it at another time. But I did just kind of feel like there were several moments where I was like, I want to know Kat better. She seems like there's more to her story, but like I was like, is Zach ever gonna really go there with her? I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
And it's a cool way to feature that there are lots of different families that go on The Bachelor, because a lot of people, they do have that very traditional nuclear family where the mother and father maybe still together, or there's a divorce, but it isn't as like what Kat's situation is, where she feels like she didn't have a good relationship with her mom. And some people, especially Zach, is like, I'm so family oriented, it really matters to me that I have a person that is close to their family. Well, if you don't have one, it's not your fault, and you shouldn't be blamed for it, and you shouldn't be ostracized for it, or seen as less of a possibility than anyone else just because of that connection of your mother.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Maybe she was asking Zach, like, is it okay that I'm not like the cookie cutter wife that you're looking for? And he, you know, didn't really speak to that, but he did assure her. So that is a good thing that he did do.
I do appreciate Kat for being open about the fact that she doesn't have that cookie cutter family, because that is something that is talked about on this show so much, like the desire for a traditional family, and kind of lifting up and uplifting families that are kind of quote unquote perfect in that sense, or like, oh, my parents have been together for so long, oh, my parents never fight. Although Zach did finally in this episode admit that his parents do in fact fight. He did say that over his dinner with Kat, and I was like, thank you, Zach. I'm glad that you finally stopped sugarcoating, like completely sugarcoating their relationship. So at least that, to some extent, lets us know that he is aware that happy, healthy couples do fight. So let's see if that, you know, I was like, congratulations, Zach. That's great. So,
round of applause.
Round of applause. Not everyone comes from a great family, and that doesn't make them more or less deserving of love. And it doesn't mean that they're less capable of having great, healthy relationships. Like, Kat seems like someone who has really thought about what she wants, and someone who has this strong desire to create a family system that she didn't have when she was growing up. And I'm sure she's going to get there. I'm sure she'll figure it out how to do that. And so we're rooting for her.
I feel the same way. I just want her to find someone. And I really, because of that very particular attachment trauma, it is very important that she is with a partner that is super gracious, that is really kind, and is attentive to that in her, and loves that, so that she can love it in herself. It's really a reciprocal relationship. And if it is with Zach, then cool. I just want her to find that with someone.
So next we had our group date, which for once was not girls like duking it out like in a Fight Club-esque like scene. Like, for once it was actually just they all went to the beach to hang out, you know, in the Bahamas, and just do a chill, you know, eat shellfish and play games type of date, which I appreciated, and I feel like that's a much better way to get to know people's personalities. It all was going really well until Anastasia goes and pulls Zach, asks for some one-on-one time. People can get very sensitive about such things, and so people got a little bit antsy, and Kylee went up to Anastasia and Zach and tried to steal him to get some time as well.
One person might have like a issue with someone in the house. I am really excited about the connections I have here. You know?
There shouldn't be any drama between anyone in the house, like especially if you're connecting with like good quality people.
Zach.
Exactly.
May I steal you for a second?
Can we have a couple more minutes?
I'm sorry, I'm awkward at this.
I know. Can you give us just like a minute?
I know it's really awkward.
Just give us 1 minute. We just sat down,
Don't make
Kylee.
me do this, Stassi. Stassi, babe, please, just let me have them. I don't like to fight, but this is
I'm
awkward.
definitely not gonna fight you.
Please.
All right.
Okay. I'll see you tonight.
Okay, hopefully.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
And then Stassi proceeds to go around and tell all the girls that Kylee was trying to fight her, and started to make it seem like Kylee was going to physically assault her if she didn't leave. That was kind of the implication that Anastasia was giving to all of these women, that Kylee had in some way threatened her. And I think, okay, this is very clearly, Kylee walked up. First of all, she was being so awkward. Kylee was like, hey guys, can I steal Zach? So in no way was Kylee even vaguely threatening in that moment. She was being so awkward and shy. So in no way could you have interpreted that as Kylee was being physically threatening. Honestly, to me, this was giving a little bit of microaggression. It was giving a little bit, Kylee is black, she is, or at least maybe half black, I'm not sure. But it was giving a little bit of why are we assuming that Kylee, who was being a little awkward wallflower girl in this moment, why would you twist it into this narrative of her being overly aggressive and angry? It just felt like such a stretch, and it was just giving a little tinge of racism, a little tinge of microaggression. Sure, Stassi didn't mean it that way, but it was just immediately where my mind went. I was like, why are we painting Kylee like she is physically aggressive when she was being anything but in that moment?
Maybe she didn't perceive it to be racially motivated, calling it a threat to have just perceive Kylee that way, but that is the undercurrent of it. Would you have said that about any other girl that interrupted Zach, or would you only say it about a girl that was black, that was going up to you and saying, I don't want to fight you, clearly joking, clearly just being I'm so awkward, I don't know what to do, I don't want to, I just want time with him, just because you're mad that it happened to you. You don't attach that to someone else. You don't give them the label of being this aggressor, this person that is physically wanting to overcome you in some way. So I just thought that whole dynamic was just completely overblown. I think it would have been better if she was able to really tap into herself and just say, I felt insecure that I had time taken away from me, instead of targeting all of that insecurity and frustration into she's the person that's in the wrong. She interrupted me. She's attacking me. I'm threatened. I feel overwhelmed by it.
If Stassi was upset that Kylee insisted on taking Zach, that's one thing. But then to spin it into
exactly,
Kylee is being aggressive, that's where it was taking things too far, in my opinion.
I agree.
And so it just felt unnecessary, honestly. And to me, I just think that this happens all the time. It's somebody on a group date will take the guy to have a little bit of one-on-one time. Then someone else comes, says, can I steal him? I don't think actually either of them were being inappropriate in this moment. I think it was fully fine for Anastasia to want to take time with him. It's fine for Kylee to want to have time with him too and try to steal him away. It was fine for Stassi to ask for a few more minutes. And it was fine for Kylee to say, no, you can't have a few more minutes, there's a limited time and I want to make sure I get my time with him. So I thought everyone was actually okay in all of these interactions, and then it just blew up into this whole big thing. And I think it really did start with Stassi turning it into a bigger deal than it really was. And also, Zach is not in the clear here, because I don't know if you noticed in this interaction, Zach, while the two girls were talking about who's gonna take him, he literally puts his head down, literally flamingo style. He's as it oh, I'm just not gonna say anything and someone will figure it out, but it isn't gonna be me. And I'm Zach, in this moment, you can just, you're the one who they're wanting to spend time with. You can just say, like, Kylee, give us 5 more minutes. Or you can say, Stassi, I'll get you later. Let me take some time with Kylee. Just one or the other. It doesn't matter. But, like, why are you just letting these girls, like, awkwardly, like,
duke it out,
pull on your sleeves? Like, it's like, I just keep thinking, like, gosh, Zach, this is not no drama. This is not no drama. This is you pretending that drama isn't happening around you and letting people fend for themselves. And, like, come on, man, just say so. It's very easy and very non-dramatic for you to just say, give us 5 more minutes, or I'll come and talk to you later. So easy. It's like you're creating drama by not making a move, you know?
In that moment, he really is someone that could have created the structure for it, or created the environment for, like, them to both feel secure and for him to take charge of what he wants. But he's very... I really do think that Zach focuses so much on the good. He just doesn't like to focus on the bad. He doesn't like to focus on the negative. He doesn't like it when there's a little bit of conflict bubbling. He's like, you guys can handle it yourself until it becomes so out of hand that I need to step in. And when I step in, I'm not going to talk to you about it. I will just simply send you home if I feel like this is too bad for me to handle. I do get that. That is very straightforward. It's really direct. But I, like, before it got to that place, he really could have had a conversation of both of them. It didn't have to escalate to the level that it did. And I really felt like because he didn't, the girls really took control of that narrative, and it got spun the wrong way. It, like, hurt both of them. Especially, it really hurt Kylee, because Kylee was, her integrity and her character was kind of being dragged through the mud a little bit for doing something that everyone does on the show.
On the show, yeah.
And then she was the one that was singled out. She was the one that was labeled this angry Black woman, this person that steals, this person that disrespects people, this person that is trying to fight people physically. Like, that is such an exaggeration, so unnecessary, so uncalled for, and it could have been mediated, to your point, Kylee, if Zach just said, give me a few minutes, I will come find you afterwards. But he didn't do that. He was just like, too much.
It's not me.
Who's the next girl I can make out with, you know?
You're totally right that Zach really, like, it really does feel like by not doing anything, it kind of, people think that, like, oh, if I don't say anything, then I'm not participating in the drama. But it's like, by just giving, like, a little firm nudge of where this should go, which direction, who I want to spend, you could have prevented all of this and prevented even Stassi from needing to go home, prevented, like, Kylee from feeling as insecure and panicked as she was. The reason that Kylee goes on to tell Zach about the things that Stassi was saying was because she was worried that, oh my gosh, like, now Stassi is, like, saying my name to all these people, and it's eventually gonna get back to Zach, and Zach is gonna think I'm a problem, and so I should just get ahead of it by just bringing up Stassi first, so that way it doesn't sound like I'm the problem. It was kind of like she's aware of the dynamics on this show, which is like, you know, as soon as someone's talking bad about you, it's eventually gonna go back to Zach. Like, you kind of know that that's just how it goes. And so she was like, all right, I have to just kind of get ahead of this, otherwise I'm going to lose my chance here to have a connection with Zach. And so she almost felt like cornered into having to bring it up, and you can tell that she kind of, like, didn't really want to have to be in the role of, like, being the snitch and bringing up, like, a problem to Zach. But I kind of agree with her that if she didn't do it, I'm sure Anastasia would have brought up Kylee to Zach. She was bringing it up to all of those other girls, and so it just made me think, gosh, Zach really could have prevented this and, like, stopped the drama for both of them if he had just spoken up. Now, granted, Stassi should have just, like, kept her mouth shut, didn't have to blow this whole thing into such a big thing when it wasn't a big thing at all. Like, Stassi could have done that. I don't actually know if there was anything else Kylee could have done, to be honest. Like, you know, once Stassi started running her mouth, it was like the only thing she could do was bring it up to Zach, because otherwise it's like one of them is going to get bit in the butt by this, either Stassi or Kylee. And so Kylee did what she had to do to make sure that she could stay in the running. The funny thing, though, was the whole, like, Instagram thing that came up when Kylee brought up Stassi's stuff. That, to me, I was like, what? Why? Where did this come from? Out of nowhere, Kylee brings up, she's talking about the fact that Stassi is, like, bringing up the fight line, which was fine. I think it's fair for her to bring that up. And then Kylee pulls in, oh, she's also been talking about Instagram followers. That came out of nowhere. I was like, all right, Kylee, like, why why did that come? Why is that here? Like, why are you talking about that? It just felt so, that to me felt like, all right, now this is Kylee taking it where it didn't need to go. Like, this is Kylee causing more drama than there needed it to be, because pretending that people are not here, at least in part, for gathering influence, gathering followers, and starting a social media influencing career is just like, you're just having to pretend. I don't know. It just makes me so annoyed. It's just willful ignorance if you pretend that people are not here to start a social media career, because that is what so many of these people are here to do. That's why they all go on to do it. You know, it's like, and it doesn't make someone a bad person for wanting to support themselves professionally, right? It is a job to move on. And people talk about like, oh, they just want the Instagram followers, forgetting that this is part of their work. You know, if you go into influencing, this is part of the job. And so to say that people are coming onto this show and be surprised that some people want to get following, I'm just like, guys, you're just being willfully ignorant. You're just... The fact of the matter is that is always one of the results of being on television, of being on a reality TV show. And I just wish we would just be honest about that instead of making it into this big, like, taboo.
I totally agree with you, Kylee, because it is a social media game to be on The Bachelor, and everything is, like, you do have a profile, you do have a brand presence on the internet, and you're allowed to want a lot of different things at the same time. Like when you go in The Bachelor, it's, oh my God, imagine all of these followers I can get. I really want to meet other girls that are interested in the same kind of experience. And I want the possibility, the 1 in a million possibility of falling in love, of being the person that's at the very end. You can have all of those things happen at once, and you're not a villain for wanting to have a lot of different things happen to you. I think a lot about dating now, where some people might want to be single. They might want to be in their single girl era. Then they meet someone and they're like, oh my God, I could really fall in love with you. And their feelings shift and they want something deeper. You're allowed to have your feelings change. People shouldn't be able to be like, well, when you started dating them, you didn't want to be with them. Well, it's like, okay, my feelings can change. I can want to be with them now. So like, I don't know. I just thought that when Kylee brought it up, it just became so clear that these girls have bigger problems with each other than with the show itself. And I could just see the insecurity really coming out of wanting to make it to the end, of wanting Zach to see my integrity, my character is intact. Theirs is not, because look, they're after the wrong thing. They're here for the wrong reasons. But what is the right or wrong reason, and what is, like, you can't really define it. It just really depends on what you're looking for. You know, like maybe Zach doesn't want someone that has an Instagram following presence, so then maybe he shouldn't go on The Bachelor and broadcast his love story on TV. There's like so many ways that someone could really play it. Like Zach could now be cast as the bad guy if someone just phrases it that way. So I think a lot of generosity in this moment and just honesty of like, that is one of the things that I get on this show. You know, I get to be the Bachelor, I get to go on these talk shows, I get to have all of these women go after me. What's wrong with just admitting it versus making people feel bad for like considering that as a thing?
Yeah, you're totally right. And honestly, like Anastasia, it listed her occupation as content marketing manager. She literally does this for a living. So when they were talking about, like, I think the nature of the conversation was like they were in the house and talking about social media and talking about their work. Again, this is their jobs. So they were talking about work, which they are allowed to do on the plane when the cameras aren't rolling. People are allowed to talk about things other than being in love with Zach. It's okay for Anastasia to want to talk about her work, which in this case, she works in content marketing. Content marketing involves social media, it involves influencing. And so for her to talk about followers and the way, you know, being on the show will impact that, it is okay. It is just being honest about what the full picture is of the experience on this show. I mean, the only thing that I would say is like, would make it not appropriate to be on the show is if you have zero interest in the lead and you come here and you pretend to have interest in him when you don't, and you end up, I mean, we think about situations like Jed and Hannah Brown, where Jed was kind of just doing it for his music career, and he just accidentally ended up all the way at the end, even though he had a girlfriend back home and didn't really want to date or be with Hannah Brown. And so there are situations where it's like, all right, if you're not actually interested in this lead, don't let them fall in love with you. You know, you got to get out of there before it gets to that point if you're not actually interested in dating this person. And that is, I think, a valid concern for Zach and for the girls. Like, is someone pretending to be interested in him when they really are not actually looking for something serious? And are they going to, you know, prevent him from finding an actual valid match by, you know, being there and like going through the motions and faking it, making it seem like they're interested? Like, that's a valid thing to be concerned about. But talking about Instagram, that in and of itself is not a problem. Being an influencer is not in and of itself a problem. Like, let's be real. That's just what most of these people are going to go on to do when they get off this show. And so let's just be honest about it. That's my take anyway.
I do think that in this instance, it's really just Zach inspecting their intentions and motives further. But he doesn't really do that. As soon as he just sees anything that could even indicate that there's a little bit of tension, a little bit of conflict, he will literally just march them out and send them home. Won't walk them out, but he will march them out to where the limo is at. And he's like, okay, like, goodbye, like, this is not working out. I don't really know how I feel about that, because I do totally see the point about Stasi and Kylee and all of these like mixed communications and intentions and anger and who's here for the right reasons. It's up to Zach to get to the bottom of it, but he doesn't even try. He just says, like, I just don't like this. A lot of girls are upset about it, so I will just see you off. And I just wish there was a little bit more of, like, thoughtful conflict resolution, or just some version of it where it really felt like he like cared about their experience and cared about what was really happening. It's like, as soon as he has enough information, he's like, okay, well, that's what it is. I just have to, like, I have to bring you home now because I'm here to find my best friend. My best friend wouldn't do this. My best friend wouldn't be someone that's in the middle of all of this mayhem, you know? She would be kind of like chilling on the side. I really believe that's how he's seeing it. Yeah,
I also agree. I think that he, like, when he pulled her at the cocktail party to, like, hear her out, or ostensibly to hear her out, it made me think, is he even going to change his mind? Does what she has to say, is it going to affect what you're thinking or planning on doing at all? Because if not, like, why are you even going through these motions? It just made me think, I mean, he kind of said this. He said at one point, like, oh, regardless of the drama, the connection just wasn't there, is what he said. And it made me wonder if the purpose of that conversation was actually just to see, when I sit down with her, do I feel a pull towards her in this moment? Like, in this final conversation, am I feeling like I want her to be there? No, this is still heavy. Okay, I'm just gonna send her home. Like, I think that's more what he was trying to gauge, more so than anything that she, like, was gonna say about the content of the fight. I think he was just trying to gauge if, like, oh no, I am really attracted to her and I want her to still be here. No, actually, I feel like bad in this conversation. Okay, I'm actually just going to send her home. That's kind of what I think the nature of that conversation really was. I think it had far less to do with, you know, whether or not she's, like, looking for followers, and much more to do with, you know, just how he felt in that moment. And I think, you know, that's why she ended up going home. Even though to me it felt like she seemed very genuine in that conversation, but I think that he was just like, I can't really, like, I don't feel anything, or I don't feel anything enough to, like, keep you around and, like, continue the drama. And so I'm just going to send you home. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about of, like, maybe if he had thought, like, more holistically about it, like, well, I have been really attracted to her and interested in her in the last, like, week or two. This came up. It feels like it's kind of settled now. Let me just, like, keep her around another week to see if, you know, we can just have fun once we move past this, and, like, connect once we move past this. No, it's just like, yeah, this is feeling bad. Let's just send her home. Like, this is already too much for me. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it's fine for him to make decisions like that, but it does feel, I keep feeling like he's sending home people that he could connect with. I kind of think that Anastasia and him, I could have kind of seen it, but, you know, he got to make the choices he got to make, so.
So tell us what you guys think. Are you on Stasi's side or Kylie's side? Do you agree with how Zach handled the situation? Let us know in the comments down below.
So Brooklyn got the last one-on-one date. They, like, did some, like, dirt biking or whatever. They did some kind of adventurous car activity. God, you can see that I really don't know anything about that kind of stuff. But they went on.
He was like, I think Brooklyn likes dirt, so I invited her on the date. I forgot what he said, but it was just like, okay. Like Zach's decision making is so simple. It's like A plus B equals C.
Right. I think she's like a cowgirl or like a rodeo girl. She works on like a ranch or something like that. So like I think that's like where the connection was. But anyways, the date seemed to go well. I think they seemed to like each other enough, but same thing, even on the date, I was a little bit like, I don't know if I really sense that much of a specific spark as opposed to like him with Katie or him with Kat. But, you know, went well enough. But the thing that we really wanted to talk about related to this date was what Brooklyn brought up in the evening portion. So Brooklyn very bravely brings up her personal history and experiences with domestic violence. And it was a really intense conversation. She tells him and all of us about the fact that she was in this relationship that was at first emotionally abusive and then it escalated into physical abuse. And, you know, she gets really worked up. She cries and she talks a lot about how she felt just like embarrassed and ashamed and how she became like this shell of a person in that relationship. And it felt, I mean, first of all, like huge like kudos to her for being willing to bring this all up and to talk about it on a national platform. And I think that it was great that they being the show kind of like showcased this conversation very thoughtfully, because it's an important one and it is something that is so common. It's so common for relationships or for women to end up in relationships, not just women, I guess anyone, for people to end up in relationships that turn out to become abusive. And people don't really like to talk about it because it's obviously so heavy and so hard, but also because there's a lot of shame in there. There's a lot of shame that people who have experienced this feel related to, like, I can't believe that I let myself end up in this situation, or I can't believe, like, I don't want people to know that, like, you know, it was me, I was the one who experienced this terrible thing that we all hear about. And so it was really brave of Brooklyn to bring it up, and I really appreciated her sharing these really, really sensitive feelings that she was having around her experience, because yeah, they're really common, and it's really hard to admit that those are the things that you are feeling related to this experience. I think everyone, when they hear about an instance of domestic violence, they're like, oh my gosh, like that's awful. It's so glad. We're all so glad that you got out of it, which is true. We are all really glad that she got out of it. But I think like beyond just that, for her to like really talk about like emotionally how this has impacted her and how she sees herself, I thought that was really brave of her, and hopefully it helps other people recognize that the feelings that they have, they're not alone, and those feelings are, you know, not that they are valid, but not, I don't want to say like they're true, because I don't actually think Brooklyn has anything to be embarrassed or ashamed about. Like, I do think that people think that they should be ashamed about the fact that they ended up in this type of relationship, but it's never your fault if your partner ends up being someone who is capable of violence. It's not something that people can really recognize until they're already in this situation. And often by the time that you are in that situation, you are attached. You are attached to that person. You love them. You feel like you really want to make the relationship work. And that isn't something that you should be ashamed of. Like, you're someone who was trying to make a relationship that you cared about, you know, function. And eventually it becomes too much and you leave. But that's nothing that you should be ashamed about, because you can't be, it's never your fault if someone else takes advantage of you and pushes things too far. That's never on you, and not something that you should be ashamed about. So it's not that I think that Brooklyn's feelings are valid or invalid. I just really appreciate that she shared that, because I think that is something that a lot of people who've been through this situation think about and feel.
And it's a really big act of bravery and healing for her to be able to have this conversation with him and not keep it a secret, because that is the thing that a lot of victims in abusive situations and relationships may feel. They may feel like they need to keep it a secret, that they need to protect their partner. Their partner might be blaming them for the violence or the abuse being enacted onto them, and that's a lot for a person to carry. It's a lot for a person to heal from, and she just got out of it, a year ago? So it's still fairly recently, and it's still something that she must be contending with herself. And it does show, like, the possibility and potential that she does see in Zach to trust him and America with her story, because it is unfortunately a really common situation, and it never damages you as a person. You are never someone that is less dateable. You are never someone that deserved to, like, have that happen to you, so you should not be ashamed of it. And I really hope that a lot of people really see Brooklyn's act of admission as an act of bravery, and I hope that her having this conversation is the beginning of her really embarking on a lot of healing and knowing that she doesn't have to be with people that have treated like her like that in the past, and she could really move forward from that. And that what happened to her, it's like not anything else that she's going to get into.
Yeah, it really does. It makes me, I'm so glad that she brought it up, because I think it helps to hear other people's stories. Like, it helps you recognize that, you know, I'm not just like, I don't know, like, there's this feeling of like, oh, I'm just like such an idiot for staying in that relationship. And it's like, you're not an idiot. Like, you're not, like, it's not your fault that this happened to you. And frankly, we live in a society that primes women to be vulnerable to these situations because we're so pressured to cling to our relationships, right? Like, women are so pressured to, like, cling to our relationships at all costs. It's like our value is so based on whether or not we're able to get a man and keep a man, and being able to, like, nurture a successful relationship. And, like, family life is seen as, like, a woman's greatest possible accomplishment. And so it's not surprising to me that it can be really, really difficult for women, but also everyone. But I think this might be something specific to women. It's not surprising to me that it can be really, really hard to admit when you're in a relationship that is going downhill. And I think anyone, even if your relationship hasn't been abusive in the past, but anyone who's been in a bad relationship can probably relate to that feeling of, like, you don't want to tell people, right? Like, it's like you're in that bad relationship, you're fighting a lot, things are, like, kind of starting to, you can kind of feel that, you know, this is not going well. But then when people ask you, like, how are things going with your guy, you're like, great, everything's fine. Like, you, like, don't really want to tell them that things are, like, you know, going downhill, because there's this feeling of, like, you want to show, oh no, yeah, my home life is good, everything's fine, yeah, like, my relationship is good. You want people to believe that things are going well. And so I think that feeling that Brooklyn is describing, of that embarrassment, or, like, wanting to, or that shame around being in a bad relationship, I think maybe all of us can relate to, like, some piece of it, of, like, wanting people to, like, not know when your relationship is going downhill. But again, it's, like, the kind of thing where, like, when we talk about it, then we're able to, like, get help. We're able to, like, get support. We're able to, like, understand, like, how it happened in someone else's relationship and apply that learning and that teaching to our own relationship. So I really commend Brooklyn for being willing to talk about it, because I think the more we talk about it, the more we can recognize, like, the patterns, the more we can recognize, like, here's what happened in their relationship. I can see what's happening in my relationship. I know how to, you know, make the changes I need, whether that's to get out of the damn relationship or work on it, whatever it might be. But being able to, like, get that support and hear other people's stories is so, so important. So yeah, I really applaud Brooklyn for her bravery. I think it's really important that we're having these conversations.
I want Brooklyn to find love. I feel more invested in her love story than Zach's, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, who knows. But I really want her. Yeah, I feel like Zach does have a really great group of girls this season, and Brooklyn needs to be protected, and she is dealing with something that is very big. It's a lot to process, so I just really hope that she's being held throughout that experience and that processing.
I know. I really hope they have some freaking therapists on hand in this
That's what I'm
show.
Thinking. Because it's a lot, right? Yeah.
I know. Even, like, honestly, I had this thought of, like, she's bringing it up on television. Like, it makes me nervous because, like, I don't know if that scary guy is watching this and, like, reaches out to her or something. Everyone, like, make sure Brooklyn's okay. Like, seriously, it's, like, so brave of her to be able to talk about it. And there's so many reasons why people keep this information closed, like close to them instead of letting people in. And it is, yeah, if you can find someone that you trust, you don't have to do it on national television, but if you can find someone that you can trust to talk about it, I really do think that it helps. It really helps to get those outsider perspectives and to let other people know what's going on in your life. It makes all the difference for everyone, for yourself and the people who get to hear you.
By the way, if you're enjoying this conversation and finding value in it, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us a lot.
All right, so now let's get in and talk about Zach. So last week, Julie and I developed a pretty interesting theory about Zach and his whole like no drama thing. Like, we don't actually think that he's a no drama bachelor. We think that something else is going on. If you want to watch the whole video, we'll link it up above and down below. Kind of suspect that maybe he's just really looking for the kind of relationship that isn't really ever hard. Like, to put it straightforward, like, it seems like he just wants a relationship that's just light and easy. And like this no drama thing, sure, on this show it's like great to root for someone who sends home people who are kind of stirring the pot unnecessarily and creating things out of nothing. Like, sure, it's like great to root for a bachelor who is not kind of falling into that trap that a lot of leads do. But in this case, it really does feel like Zach is maybe like using drama as a substitute word for anything that feels vaguely hard or difficult.
And this is not saying that Zach is not a good dater, but it's more about the fact that what he's interested in with a girl is like, are you attractive? Do you have the same values that I'm looking for? Are you down for a good time? Are you down for adventure? And are you down to have fun? And if they deviate from that script in terms of being insecure or like being involved with drama happening of girls in the house, he isn't really able to tend to them in that situation because he's like, I haven't even invested in you enough and had what you're like, that type of experience that I'm looking for with you, where we're having fun, where we have these adventures, where it makes sense for me to like cater to you at this point. I noticed in this episode, he was able to validate some of the girls and just kind of say like, I know that we're not spending a lot of time together, but just know that I'm noticing you. I like see all of the effort that you're putting in, and it took time for him to get to that point. I don't think he's going to say it for anyone he truly doesn't care about. But to that point, it's like, Zach, you're still on a season where these girls have given up their jobs. They've given up their lives for a predetermined amount of time to see if they can find love with you. Even if you don't feel any chemistry with them, I think you still have a responsibility to make sure that they're being cared for in some way. If you're going to send them home, at least be honest with it, like with Stasi, instead of him being like I don't like the whole Instagram follower thing, he could have said, I wasn't really sure about our connection after the first week, and now this is like the final thing that makes me feel like maybe we're not the right match. I'm just going to send you home. I think if he really is the straightforward dater that he says he is, then he should be super honest about exactly where he's seeing it, so there is no blurriness that someone could read into it. He could just simply say like, this is what I'm really feeling about it, and like, thank you so much for coming on my season, I'll walk you to the car, all of that. He didn't do it, and he doesn't really do that a lot when he sends women home. I feel like he just like sends them off and he's like, okay, that has been terminated, my care towards them has ended, and I'm gonna focus back on all of these amazing things I have. It's kind of like this refocusing constantly on the good and positive, but with Zach's season in particular, because he specifically leaned into the title of no drama, it just feels like Zach is like so not aware in that situation. Like, I don't find him attractive. I don't think that he's doing anything revolutionary. I don't think it's a return to classic love stories. It just seems like this is a guy that's on a show to find love, and he's in it for himself. There is nothing revolutionary or like romantic about that, except for the one person that wins at the very end. But everyone else, he's just gonna like kind of move aside on that journey.
You're right. There is something kind of grim or like twisted about, he keeps talking about how he's hates drama, no drama for me. And it's like, he'll, like, if someone is in front of him making him feel bad, he picks them up and puts them away. And then like,
and put someone else good in front of him. So it's like nothing was gone in the first place, you know?
Yeah, and then it's like there are all these girls who are like stressed and crying in the house, and you know, it's like a little bit like, okay, well, Zach doesn't know about it because they know that they better not tell him about it, because if they tell him about it, he's going to send them home, right? It's becoming a little bit of this dynamic of like, you have to kind of keep all your shit to yourself, because if Zach finds out, he's going to say you're drama, and then you have to go, right? And so it's becoming a little bit of like, around Zach, you have to be like in your charming best self, and like all your emotions you kind of have to keep to yourself a little bit. Like any negative emotion, you can't show it to him, because if you show it to him, he'll interpret that as your drama, or he'll interpret that as, you know, oh, it's too negative when I'm around you, I feel negative around you, and therefore you should just leave. And that's a tough way to date. It means that you get punished for bringing up negative things to Zach. You get punished if you have any problems going on in your life or in the house. You kind of get punished for it. And so it's like not safe to bring it up to Zach. And that's kind of a tough dynamic to have with someone who you're theoretically dating, with someone who you are theoretically in a relationship with or pursuing a relationship with. And so, yeah, I did notice, like you said, he did validate several of the women and like explain to them like, oh, we haven't seen each other, but I'm still thinking about you, I still like you. But he brought that up to them. It's not like they came to him saying like, oh, I feel like, you know, we're not getting enough time together. Like none of them brought it up to him. He brought it up to them. And so it's okay for him in that sense to give validation. But it made me wonder, like, okay, what if they go to Zach and ask for validation? What would have happened? Right? Kind of like what happened with Davia, right? Davia went up to Zach and was like, oh, I feel like we're not getting a lot of time together. And like, I still really am interested in you, but like, I'm worried that it's not there. And he was kind of like, all right, well, bye. Didn't give her a rose, sent her home. Like, you know? And so it just makes me wonder, I don't know. I wonder what the undercurrent here is for the girls in the house, feeling like you basically shouldn't bring up any kind of emotions to Zach. You just, like, if I watched all of everything that has gone on, I would come away with like, I really cannot bring up anything negative to him, because if I do, he will send me home. That's what happened to Kylee, right? Kylee was like, this girl was like attacking me in the house, and so I have to bring it up to Zach. But it's a little bit like, oh my God, I know by bringing it up to Zach, he'll probably send me home, right? It was like, if I bring up this thing that I'm dealing with, I'm gonna get in trouble, right? That's such a weird, it's a weird zone. It's like a weird way to feel about the guy that you're dating, isn't it?
It's so bizarre, because it's also like you're game playing. Zach is not interested in people that are being disingenuous, but you are being disingenuous if you're purposely obscuring and hiding things emotionally within yourself, because you are afraid of how it's going to change your dynamic with this person that you're dating, someone that you know seeks out levity and lightheartedness. You're not going to want to go so deep, or you will go a little bit deep, but you will be careful about what you're like giving out, or be careful about the ways that you unpack it. It just honestly feels like with Zach, as he is, I don't know, like okay, so like another thing too about how Zach was giving validation to the girls, it's not like he was individually doing it to the girls. He was doing it like, okay, tonight it is time for me to validate the girls. I will go to every single one of them and I will let them know that I am thinking about you. You don't have to be worried. I see everything you're doing. It goes noticed by me. Let's have a kiss and let's make out. Like he's kind of like running them through scripts a little bit. So then to me, it just feels like it's very superficial. It feels like you're walking on eggshells a little bit, because it's like, when is Zach ready for the conversation? When is, you know, like when is he ready to be more vulnerable with me? And until that point, I will be this effervescent, lighthearted girl. Exactly.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's one of the reasons why I still see Greer as being a really big front runner, even though she's not getting a lot of screen time, because she's exactly that kind of girl that Zach is looking for. Just like even like the beginning of her intro video where she was like, I'm silly and quirky and weird, and she like does all of that silly stuff. I think Zach is into it. And as the show goes on, as things get deeper, as the women become more and more invested, Zach is going to be so emotionally overwhelmed that I can see him going for the girls that are flying under the radar, super no drama, kind of all about Zach, giving him a really positive experience. They will stick out in his head more than someone that could actually be a good match for him if he just chose to like actually sit in his discomfort and like be vulnerable with someone and see what they were really about. He's just all about like, let's go skydiving, let's go ATVing, let's go on a yacht and let's dance, you know, like all of that stuff. But that doesn't make a relationship. It just makes an experience.
Right. You're so right. I think that Greer, I could see being the one. However, she was crying a lot on this date, and I was like, ooh, if you bring any of those feelings to Zach, he's going to send you home. So, like, cry in the house, but don't bring it to Zach, you know?
Yeah.
That
at
was
least this early on, or at least until he really knows. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Has he kept around any girl who brought any kind of concern to him? Because he lets Katie talk about her toxic relationships and Brooklyn talk about her experience with abuse and Katherine talk about her bad relationship with her mom, but those things don't have to do with Zach. They are not asking Zach for anything. They're not asking Zach to do anything, right? They're just like, these are things that happened in my past. But when girls come up with problems now in which Zach is going to be asked to do something, that's when he's like, your drama, go home, right? Mm-hmm. And so I am wondering, so Greer is going to be an interesting case study because clearly Greer is starting to feel emotional about her experience on The Bachelor and feeling like she's not getting enough attention after she had a lot of attention night one. She got the first impression rose. So I'll be very curious to see what happens because I feel like if she brings this up to Zach, I can see him reacting in a weird way. Let's see. I always want to be proven wrong, but, you know, I'm a little bit like, versus, like, to your point, like, I think that he's going to stick to girls who are light and airy, such as, to me, it's Ariel. Ariel is the girl who got the group date rose this week. She is someone who is she's such a mysterious, hot weirdo in the background. I don't know what her deal is. She just breezes in. She's hot and interesting and funny and sexy, makes some jokes, they make out, and then she's gone. Like, you know, like, I feel like that's exactly the kind of vibe that Zach
She's like
likes.
comic relief. She comes in and then she's like, and goodbye.
Right? She's like sexy comic relief. Comes in, hello, I have jokes, I'm hot.
I'm so
make out with
funny.
me. I'm gone, goodbye. You know, like,
I'm drinking at the bar.
Right. So, like, I feel like she's the one who, to me, feels like one of those girls who will, like, stay in the background because I don't think she's going to involve herself or have too much complex emotions. Like, I don't think she's going to, like, Greer is, like, starting to get insecure, and I don't really see that happening with Ariel. So I feel like Ariel is the kind of girl who's going to continue to excel in the background because she's not going to get unmoored, right? And so because she kind of, you know, just happens to be the kind of person who is, like, less affected by, you know, stuff going on in the house, I think that she's going to excel in this situation as opposed to Greer. I think it's perfectly fine, by the way, that Greer is, like, feeling emotional about the fact that she's not getting dates, da-da-da-da. Like, I think that's actually all fine for her to be, like, crying about the fact that it feels like her connection is fading with Zach. That all checks out why she's sad about it, but I just don't think Zach is going to be very happy to hear about that. So I don't know. Let's see what happens, but that's my concern with Zach. I feel like it's getting into a weird place with him where he just can't handle doubt. It's like with Rachel, right? Rachel brings up doubts to him at the fantasy suites, and he was like, why does she have doubts? Right. How could she turn? We were having such a good time up till now, and all of a sudden she's not sure. It's like, it happens sometimes.
I also think that with Rachel in that season, it just honestly felt like Rachel kind of knew that maybe it wasn't going to be Zach around the fantasy suite. So that's when she started to bring up concerns to make sure, how are we politically? How are we with our life? How are we with these things? And all of a sudden, this really fun, effervescent, jokey relationship shifted into, wait, she's vetting me. Wait, she's not sure about me. Wait, she's bringing up all of these things that are now undermining the connection that I thought we had. Oh my God, she's playing a game. She's inauthentic. She's being the bachelorette. She's not being empathetic to me. She's not, she knows that she wants to send me home and she's not doing it in this moment now because she's going through the whole pace of what it means to be a bachelorette. I do feel like that's my theory, is that he's so traumatized by that experience that he's now like, I'm not keeping anyone around that I feel even a little bit of whiff of doubt about. But that's so tricky because at the beginning, you don't really know someone that you're dating. You have to really take the time to like unpack it. If you feel a little bit of discomfort and it's something about you as a person where, like, let's say you're not great at conflict, of course you're going to see it as a red flag because you're not good at dealing with it, and this person is asking you for some support and you're not giving it to them. So I don't know, like, I just think his bid to not be authentic is coming off a little bit like callous to me. And what I'll be looking out for over these next few episodes is, like, how does he tend to their emotions? How does he open up as a person? Not just kissing, not just platitudes, not just sharing in great memories, but what a really great marriage makes, because that's what Zach's whole thesis of being the Bachelor, right? He wants to be in a committed relationship, and being in a committed relationship is really showing love, tenderness, and care for someone, and really wanting to understand their story, and really wanting to put yourself out there and being open about a lot of things that have happened to you in the past that have made you the person you are today, and trusting someone with that part of you. That's what I want to see of Zach. Like, these dates, I know these dates matter to him. It matters at the beginning of the season. But, like, as it goes on and on, I really do want to see Zach opening up a lot more. And I just hope that because the girls are becoming, like, he's kind of whittling it down to the girls that he actually finds a compelling connection with, he's able to at least break up with them and really honor their time together, versus just being like, this isn't what I'm looking for, this isn't what you're looking for, and that's it, goodbye. Like, you can go now to the car, and I'm gonna go back to find my wife. That just feels a little bit like, damn, where's that consideration? Where's that care? Do I have to be your wife, the future best friend, for you to actually care about, like, my experience before and after you? Like, I just don't think he's plugging so much into that, you know?
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think he's not thinking about that at all. I will be very curious, too, to know how he treats these women when they have problems with him in the relationship. Like, that's what I want to know. I want to see what happens when, you know, Kat or Katie or, you know, any of the girls that he's really vibing with right now. I want to see how he reacts when they have problems with him, which will happen. Maybe not in this season, but eventually in their relationship. But so I want to know, can he handle that? Can he handle that without immediately assuming, like he did with Rachel, she's a two-faced bitch, she tricked me this whole time, actually she had doubts, I didn't know. Or will he be able, or without just being like, oh, this feels bad, I need to just send you home. Or, oh my gosh, like, okay, like, if you're going to be like that, then you're not my best friend, you're not the kind of person who I was looking for, I'm going to send you home and just date another person, right? Like, I want to see him have a different kind of reaction to somebody's problems, to somebody's doubts, to somebody's insecurities, other than just, okay, well, if you feel that way, bye. Like, I want to see, like, can you sit in a disagreement and move through it and still explore a relationship with someone, even though they may have doubts? Like, can you move through it? Can you, you know, do more? To your point, can you be in a true relationship, in a true marriage where you have to work through this stuff? Like, that's the thing that I feel like I haven't seen yet from Zach. And I'm not saying he's not capable of it. Maybe he is, and we just haven't seen it yet. Maybe it'll come up. But yeah, I will be curious to see what happens with Katie, Kat, these people who he's really connecting with. I want to see what happens when they are the ones who are having problems. Will he show up at the plate and be willing to move through those conversations with them? That's what I want to see.
Ooh, and what I want to see is how will he handle the conversations that aren't with his true soulmate, his true love of his life, because I personally would not want to be with someone that is unkind to the other people they're dating, and I'm the exception. I'm excluded from his behavior.
Yeah,
right? Because I am the one
Hate
that he
shit.
chooses. That's rude. That's mean. I would not want to be with a person like that.
Yeah.
That would treat the people that he had a relationship with with that much like, okay, I have washed my hands of you, I'm done, but I will give all of my tenderness, all of my care to the one person that deserves it above everyone else. Like, love is not a hierarchy. That's not the point of it. And I don't find it attractive in The Bachelor. And I just think that a lot of people on the internet keep saying, like, he's such a no-drama bachelor. He's not being a no-drama bachelor. He just seems like really conflict avoidant, and that does make him no drama. But, like, how do the girls feel when they go home? I bet they don't feel super supported. I bet they felt like that was not the season I was looking for. That wasn't the support I was looking for. It's not like he even really thanked them for coming on the show and like trying it out. He was just like, okay, well, this isn't working out, and I really want you to find what you're looking for. Goodbye.
You're so right. I really am glad that you brought that up, because you're right. Like, if he treats Kat and Katie, you know, really well in the face of conflict, that's great. But like, what about all these other girls who are gonna like fall to the wayside on the journey there? You know, it's like, you know, Kylee who's crying in the bathroom, all these other girls who are not getting a, like, any kind of like tenderness in the way that he's dealing with the challenges that are coming up with them. Like, what about those girls? You're right. I hate that shit of like, I'll treat everyone like shit except for the one girl that I like. Like, that's just it. That ain't it, right? That ain't it. And also, by the way, they'll eventually treat that one girl like shit too. Like, it's gonna, like, we're not different. We're not different. It's all the same. Like, all the same stuff is in there, and it's like, you might try to behave differently with one person and be like, I'm going to treat this one person differently, but it's in there. Eventually that person's going to piss you off too, and you'll treat them like that also, right? Exactly. And so it is just, you're right. Like, I want to be impressed by Zach and see him eventually kind of show up for these girls that he's interested in and like show up for them and move through the conflicts in a healthy way. But it makes me wonder, is that even enough considering everything that we've seen so far? I don't know. I don't know. Like, but let's see. Like, maybe he'll also be able to start to reckon with how he's approached this season. I mean, I kind of doubt it because everyone's praising him for it. Like, everyone is like, you know, applauding him for the way he's moving through this season. So I don't feel like he's going to walk away with any bit of reflection, just like he didn't walk away from Rachel's season with any bit of reflection, because he got validated for the way he became the Bachelor, for the way that he moved through that season. And so, you know, I don't think he learned anything from his experience with Rachel. And so now everyone is starting to say, like, we like Zach as the Bachelor. So I don't know if he's going to really walk away and learn anything from this either. So
Zach's season is basically a correction of other seasons where they haven't been in love at the very end. But, like, at what cost? And then this kind of means that Zach is saddled with like this good guy concept, this concept of being this person that's all about love. But I don't think he's being all about love. It seems like he's being all for himself, and that's a much different distinction. And I do think that's a distinction that is important in dating to be considerate of. Like, how does the person that you choose treat the other people that they've dated, are currently dating, or have dated in the past? Like, what does it say about them as a person? And Zach just hasn't indicated that he's like this white knight in shining armor that the Bachelor show desperately is like trying to fit him in to this like cookie cutter.
Okay, so that's where we are on Zach so far. I think both of us are still trying to like figure out exactly how we feel about him. We have like all these data points and we feel a little bit confused and befuddled by his behavior, but yeah, let's see. Let us know what you all think about Zach. Leave some comments down below. Let's keep this conversation going. Do you think that he's a no-drama Bachelor, or do you think that there's something else going on here? What are your feelings about the way that he handled the different situations this week with Anastasia and Kylee, Davia, Kat? What do you think about the way that he is approaching each of these relationships? Let's talk about it. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel if you aren't already. We're doing Bachelor recaps for every episode of Zach's season of The Bachelor, and we will be back next week for episode 5. Bye!